So I'm back working on the Betamax here. I've got a couple different tapes here for testing purposes, and we're going to hook this up to the scope and check it all out for alignment. So push the tape in, as you can see. It's beautiful the way that loads. And again, I've done nothing to this machine as of yet. I'm sure it does need some alignment work, but as you can see, here we have old Bill Murray Ghostbusters. This was recorded off Laserdisc, and as you can see in here, well, we got a bit of distortion here today. So we still have some problems happening on this thing here that need to be resolved. Now the audio was clear before, and now it sounds to be a bit distorted. To check for our RF from our test points, we connect our scope, our dual channel scope. Our trigger is from pin number 1, which is this first pin over here. This is on CN4. Our RF is from pin number 3. So when we put this on the scope here, this gives us our RF envelope. And if I adjust the tracking control, you'll see that the RF envelope will go down. When our RF envelope, now it's switched over to the normal audio here. And we want to maximize our RF. This is one head that we're looking at. If I change my scope sweep, now we're seeing both heads. There's one head there, there's the other head there. It's kind of an overlap here. It's hard to see on the scope with the rolling shutter from the camera. But you can see as I adjust the tracking control, there's the two heads there, there's one head there, there's the other. Our RF isn't too bad. It's not perfect, but I'm not playing an alignment tape either. I'm playing a tape that was recorded on, it may have even been recorded on this machine years ago. We do have a hi-fi audio problem though, it's evident. Now that was playing properly before, the last time I turned this thing on, but you probably heard all the loud noise, and that has now gone away. We're not getting that switching noise, but we're just getting severe distortion on our soundtrack. Here's another tape. Again, RF wise, it's looking okay. A little bit down on the entrance side here for the guide, but not real serious. We can try and tweak that up. Try and bring the RF up just a little bit on the entrance side here to make it perfect. At least make it perfect for this tape. And that's what the best I can do, is to align it to this particular tape, just because I don't have an alignment tape handy for the beta machine. I used to have a full set of alignment tapes, but I don't know whatever happened. I probably still have it somewhere. But I'll show you what I'm doing here. You see I can adjust that. You see that? Now my RF is perfect. I'll show you what I'm adjusting. So on beta, to adjust our alignment, unlike VHS, which has got your guide pins which actually move, on a beta machine they are stationary. They don't move. The tape is threaded around the head drum, but everything else is stationary. This is what made beta so much a so much better system. I'm going to try and get a shot here so you can see what you align on here. These are our guideposts here. This is our entry side guidepost, and our exit side guideposts are over here. And I just adjust it by putting a screwdriver on here. And as I adjust it, you'll see the waveform will change. If I adjust it down, the waveform is going to drop on the leading edge. You see? And now, if we look at the picture, what I've just created a mess. Our alignment is incorrect. So if I just go back and readjust my guide a bit back up here to flatten off the waveform here, to make it as flat as possible. Now our RF is good, as is the playback picture is good. So we've got good RF on this machine. Our playback is perfect on this machine, but we do have a hi-fi audio problem that I have to deal with. Now this set is all discrete parts, so being a hi-fi audio problem, it's probably be something on this board here. But for this, I'm going to require to break out the schematic for sure, so I can start chasing waveforms. And I just so happen that I have the service manual. So let's break out the service manual and take a look and see where our problem is. I put my scope on the demod out. You'll see that the audio is not clipped. I got the bright light on in here because some of my lights have burned out in the shop here, so bear with me. Oh, that's why. I wonder why it was dark. We'll turn on that one and then I can kill the noisy light. One of my lights was turned off, but I have had a light burn out in here, so it's kind of dark in the workshop here. Anyway, if I go to the demod out, you'll see that the waveform here is clean. Demod out is this test point right here. This is the demod out left and right. And if I scope either side, you'll see that the waveform is clean. There's no distortion there. Now it's starting to clear up on its own. It's not as distorted as it was. But, and I'm just going to shut it off here and let it cool down for a minute, because it seems to be a problem that occurs more when it's cold. But when the audio was still distorted, my audio from the demod out was clean. So the demod out from, this is the schematic here. Where are we? You can't see what I'm pointing at. Okay, so here's our board here. This is our demodulation board here. The demod out comes into the noise reduction board, which is this little board here that's on the side. So our demod out goes into our noise reduction board input. And this gives us our monitor output and our, so I'm just tracing schematics here. We've got our monitor output here. And then from here it comes up and it goes into the LC3 board, which is our audio output, because here's our headphone plug here and our meters are here. So when I plugged headphones in, it was also distorted just as it was on the audio output. But it's clean going in here. So somewhere between here and here is our distortion. And that distortion I was hearing sounds an awful lot like an amplifier is not receiving the proper voltage. Maybe our supply voltage is low. So our power input here we've got a ground, record 12 volts, that will obviously switch the circuit into record compression mode. I think the companding is done on here, both the compression and the expansion is done on this board, I believe. I could be wrong, but anyway. We've got our regulated 9 volts, and our regulated 9 volts here, if you follow that red line along, powers up our ICs. And I'm thinking maybe there's a problem in that regulated 9 volts. So that's where we're at. I'm going to test that voltage now and see if our 9 volts is correct, because we may have a power supply problem, may have a capacitor for that matter in the power supply which has gone weak and our regulated voltage is down. And as it was running, it started to warm up and started to work, because I think the voltage was low, and that's where our distortion was all coming from. Anyway, let's just test that theory and see if the voltage is correct. So,
hello?
My distortion is back.
That's a different look for you, isn't it?
I'm only getting 7.5 volts going in my source into this board here. And if I go back and I scope, where's my scope probe? I scope the input. The input's still good. So now I want to look at the output from this board. And the output from this board is going to be monitor out left and right. Just looking for a plug number on here. Could be one of these other ones here. Demod in, preamp, monitor out. Monitor out is listed right here. So if I plug into monitor out, aha, look at this. Look at our out, look at our monitor out. Okay. You can see the distortion. And here's our input. Our input's fine. And our output is shits. So that tells me that our fault is most certainly on this board here. And our voltage is low. Our 9 volt supply is only coming up at 7.6 volts. You guys probably can't see that meter. My bench is kind of cluttered here with this machine. It's so big. This is my 9 volt supply. 7.7 volts. A little bit low. Should be 9. That may be where my distortion is coming from. Let's just trace that back to the power supply and see why it's low. So our 9 volt supply is fed from here. Q308 off the emitter. That's our 9 volt regulated supply. Our collector on Q308 should be 12 volts. And there's a Zener diode here, D303, that sets the voltage for the voltage regulator here. Q308 is on the LC3 board, which is this board that's on the bottom side of the hi-fi board. It's this one right here. This is the transistor right down there. That's Q308. These are the wires that actually go over to the other board there. Where are they? Here. These 3 here. Let's measure that voltage on that transistor and see whether our 12 volt supply is there. So when I measure the collector? So it's emitter collector base is the basing of this transistor. The collector will be the one in the middle. So if I measure the collector in the middle here, I have 12.43 volts. If I measure the base, I've got 9.56, and if I go over to the emitter, I've only got 7.68. So something is loading this down. It's either being loaded down by, there's a capacitor here that's on the emitter, or it's being loaded down by something on the other board. So let's check the transistor, the regulator transistor here, because our voltage is incorrect. It's 12 volts on the collector and 9 volts, I think it was 9.3 on the base, and my emitter was only coming up at about 7 volts. And that should be my regulated output. So I've got the transistor out in my hand here, and we'll just check the transistor. If you guys can see the meter or not, but okay, we got a little, looks like we got some leakage there. That's collector to emitter. Our base to emitter junction is good. Looks like our base to collector junction looks good, but when I go emitter to collector, it looks like I got some leakage there. And in the reverse direction, I've got some leakage. I think this transistor has gone bad. See if I can find something. It's a 2SD 773 and look up the specs for that thing and see if I can find one that will work. So we're just gonna mount the new part here. It's not the same part number as the other one, but it's just a common NPN transistor, so I don't anticipate any problems. The one I'm putting in is capable of handling a little more current than the original one. It's a whole hell of a lot bigger. So you can always go bigger. Let's see if our voltage comes back. Okay, we had 7.5 volts before. We have 8.9 now. See if it fixed my problem with my sound.
Prints for the strong ironwork in Dana Barrett's apartment building, and they're very, very strange.
Fixed it!
Hey, Ray.
That's what our problem
Something in the
was.
Bible about
This little bastard down here, this transistor.
rise from the grave. I remember Revelation.
Q308. Okay, if you remember when we measured our voltage,
The sixth seal, and behold,
we had 12 volts here
and the sun became as black as
on the
sun,
collector.
and the
We had our 9.8 volts on our base, but we only had 7.5 volts on the emitter.
judgment day.
That transistor regulates the voltage for
Its own myth about the
the
world.
noise reduction board here. So our voltage was low, we had a good clean signal going in, and we had distortion coming out. Now with the new transistor in place, as you can hear, sound is great.
How about a little music?
And I don't want to show that for more than a few seconds because I don't want to get in trouble, but you know what I mean. Problem seems to be solved. I'm going to run this thing for a bit here and then we will put it back together. While I run it, I'll let you guys feast your eyes on this beautiful mechanism because these were a thing of beauty.
Premises and chattels, ban on the use of public utilities for non-licensed waste handlers, and a federal entry and inspection order.
So there we go. That's beautiful. I love these mechanisms. The simplicity of Beta. I mean, I'm still pissed off that Beta didn't become the standard and VHS did, because from an operational technical side of things, the Beta was superior. Really, there's not a heck of a lot that can go wrong with that. Watch the eject cycle here. Move the camera over a bit so that you can see the whole mechanism. Get that light out of the way. Watch this thing go through load and eject. So hit the eject key. I love it. Here's our little brake tension arm down here. See, all mechanical. Load the tape back in. Oh, looks like we may have a slipping belt. We have to replace that belt, but that's because my belt was slipping. I may have to change this belt right down here because it appears that it might be slipping a bit, but let's see whether it will work. Yep, I may have to put a new belt in there, but other than that, this machine is back up and running. Picture and sound.
We had to do mine.
Now we'll get a tape and I'll do a test recording on it. Of course, one of the reasons I want to keep my Betamaxes working is because I do have a lot of historical recordings on beta format, such as this, which is something that you're probably never going to see again, but you recognize who that chap is and that guy. I have a lot of old recordings of memorabilia, old rock and roll stuff and it's all on beta. So that was one of the reasons I want to keep my beta machines going. This is a program called 20 Years Ago Today, and it's all about the Beatles. And of course, a lot of this stuff I've got is on beta.
The revolution engulfed millions of young people.
And it's, I mean, so that's the reason I keep my beta machines working. And let's say this machine here is one of the best machines that Sony ever made. It's not a super beta machine, it is a beta hi-fi, but you know what, the picture quality on this thing I think is every bit as good as the super beta ones were. When Sony went to the two-pieced head with the heads that just protruded through a slot between the upper and lower half, I think the picture quality on those, and I think most beta enthusiasts will agree that the picture was not as good, it was not as stable on the two-piece drum as it was on the three-piece drum. They brought that picture quality back with the introduction of super beta and some better processing to the circuitry, but I still think that this design here with the conventional loading that's very similar to 3/4 inch was a superior design. In the later machines, if you've seen like my SL2000 video and my SLHF1000 videos, the tape actually is pulled out and it's threaded around the opposite direction, and the mechanism is quite flimsy. It's got these little mechanical pins that spring up to hold the tape in place. It's really quite a flimsy setup compared to this. This is the real thing. This is the mechanism that keeps the tape transport as accurate as it possibly can be and delivers just overall a spectacular picture. This tape that I'm playing now, this was recorded probably 1985, 84, 85. This is a 30-year-old recording. I mean, Peter Fonda, look at how young some of these people look here. I mean, this is an old recording. He's an old man now, right? But yeah, it's really quite amazing how well this format has held up over the years. I don't want to show too much because I don't know how much trouble I'm going to get in from YouTube for showing things from broadcast. But anyway, yeah, that's my beta machine. I'm still gonna go find a tape and we're gonna do a test recording on this thing. I just have to actually find a tape I can record on, because I do have hundreds, literally hundreds of beta tapes, but most of them have got stuff on there that I really need to transfer over, and that's most part of the reason for, as I say, getting these machines up and running again. Okay, I'm just gonna do a quick recording here. I've got the machine in record mode. That's our record switch. Our record light's on over here. It's gonna make a little recording here, and we'll see how this thing works for playback. Okay, I'm gonna rewind our tape here a bit. Go back into play. And we have playback. There we go. The unit is fixed here. And I want to play the music because you know how YouTube can get. Anyway, there we go. The unit is fixed. I haven't replaced the belt yet. I have to get a belt for it. Unit's ready to go back together. I will get that loading belt in there and then throw the top cover on it. But as far as the repair goes, the unit's back up and running. As you can see, it still records a really great picture here after all these years. This tape's a 30-year-old tape, and it still does a great job. That's it. The Sony SL5200 Beta Hi-Fi Betamax machine, classic machine, first of its class, 1983 vintage. I've owned this unit since 1983 when it first came out. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.